All right, so here we go with today's social studies notes. You want to know something funny? Is I recorded this already, or I thought I did. I filled out all these notes, just talking, and I wasn't even recording. So I'm going to improvise a little bit here because I don't want to waste paper and do it over again. So I think I'll put some stickies down and just sort of reveal them. It's going to be really hard. But while I'm sitting here figuring this out, you can go ahead and cut and paste yours. One thing I want to make sure you're aware of is the paper has two separate activities on it. We are only doing the one that's called Daily Life in the 13 Colonies. We are not doing the Benjamin Franklin one. So you can go ahead and toss the Benjamin Franklin. So once you've cut and pasted, all I want to work on is the Daily Life in the 13 Colonies. Now let me tell you why. We did some Duxter's passages about how men dressed, how women dressed, and we talked about how children would essentially dress just like adults. As young kids, once they turned 5 or 6, they would start dressing the part of an adult woman or an adult man. Things were very different back then. So I wanted to kind of explore, well, just how much more different were their lives back then compared to ours today. I think I made this work. So here we go. We got the title. We have the chart. And of course, Benjamin Franklin. I have thrown that away. I'm not worried about that. Make sure you stay tuned for the whole video, though. Don't just get to the end of the notes and be like, I'm done, and click off, because I'm going to tell you what the other thing is you need to work on. These notes are very short. They won't take you long. You're going to have time to work on something else, and you need to work on this other thing. With benchmarks this week, we're a little strapped for time. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to compare and contrast, mainly contrast, how different or similar, there are some similarities, lives were for men in the city versus men in the country. Women in the city versus women in the country. Children in the city versus children in the country. So let's start with, I don't know, I like to go out of order. Let's start with the women. Ladies first. So women in the city. Okay, their main role, their main responsibility as city women was to take care of the children and the home. Not surprising. Well, what about women in the country? Well, women in the country also had this responsibility. They still had to take care of the children, still had to take care of the home, but country living, as we all know, comes with more things that have to be done around the home. And so women in the country had chores beyond what was expected of women in the city. So lots of cooking, cleaning, and activities like weaving and sewing cloth. Now, I imagine in the city, there would be women who weaved and sewed and like stores and shops that people could go to get this stuff taken care of that you wouldn't have in the country. So country women had to be skilled at lots of different things, if that makes sense. All right, let's move to the men. We saw how the men dressed. Let's see what the men did. Men in the city would have jobs. Okay, their jobs might be being a doctor or a lawyer or a minister. Doctors and lawyers require some education. Got to have some knowledge, go to school and get some knowledge to do those kinds of things. Some men would have gone down the route of just doing things with their hands, building, working on roads, working on houses, working on stores. Tradesmen would be people that would be like at a store, and they would be basically, here are my goods, you want to buy my goods. And craftsmen, of course, would be the people who would build those goods. All right, men in the country, obviously, did not work in professions like this. They were out in their country home with their fields. And these countrymen, of course, their job was planting crops and hunting. And I know some of the boys in our classes are going to love the mention of hunting. Right. Then we have children. It works this time. I've had nothing but problems. If it's not the copy machine, it's now the computer. Just stopping my recordings and not letting me continue. Let's go with the children. During the colonial times, children in the city, their responsibilities included doing things like the chores around the house, such as cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Oh, excuse me. So I'm seeing what the country women do. Looks like the children were really doing that in the city. And then children in the country would help out with these things too. But there's something different in the country that you don't have in the city, that the children were really important for taking care of, and that would be the animals, the livestock, the cows, the chickens, the sheep. Okay, so once you have these notes, this is all we are doing with these. Make sure your name is on it, put it in the basket. Now you should have some time left over at this station. So what you're going to work on is the Word Wisdom books, page 111. Okay, 111. 1 through 10. This is from the review lesson. So these are the words that we've been doing for the past 3 weeks. Now what I have done, so you should pause your video once I show these words. I have given you a word bank because I felt like this word bank was very overwhelming, and some of these words have very similar meanings. So it would be really hard to pinpoint which word you need to put in the blank. So I've taken the 10 and I've created a word bank for them. Alright. Oh, that's not helpful, is it? Neither is that. Okay. Here we go. Alright, so here's your word bank. Let me get rid of me. I think I'm going to be in your way. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Goodbye, me. Maybe I should just do that. Hopefully this works. Okay, it's not. Here's your word bank. Unit, solitude, universal, frigid, microscopic, device, reduce, estimate, soloist, and hemisphere. Here, I'll put me right in the middle. That works. All right, so I would pause the screen right here so you can see your word bank and then fill in questions 1 through 10 on page 111 in the Word Wisdom book. So that's part of the assignment with this social studies station.